So this is the rolling chassis, and Maurizio Reggiani will start from here. Grazie.
Grazie, Winkelmann. Good morning to everybody. Now we start from this, let me say, rolling chassis, because today we must discover why the new Huracan delivers exceptional driving experience. And to understand this, I will take you in a tour inside the Huracan technology. And this is exactly what you can see in this rolling chassis, but is also something that I want to summarize in chapter now before to start to go deeply in every detail. First of all, we will see what for us is the human interface of the Huracan. We'll move to our V10 5.2-liter naturally aspirated engine. We will move to the new dual-clutch gearbox, Lamborghini doppia frizione, LDF, that is something really innovative and special for our Huracan. After we have the four-wheel drive system that also in this case is completely redefined, and we will appreciate later. We have electromechanical power steering and the LDS, Lamborghini dynamic steering, that is really unique. The double wishbone suspension and magnetorheological dampers, and something that is really new, and I will explain later in a better way, that is Lamborghini piattaforme inerziali, something that is derived from aeronautic industry and for the first time apply in a car business. Another important issue for a super sport car are sure brake and tires, that is the junction between the car and the road. And something that is really special and is the best integration of the competence of light material coming from Audi, coming from Lamborghini, and merged together in this fantastic new hybrid chassis for the Huracan. But since it's all about driving performance, I have asked our top driver, Giorgio Sanna, to help me in this virtual tour. Giorgio Sanna is our chief test driver and is surely the man on earth that has driven more kilometers with the new Huracan. Ciao, Giorgio.
Ciao, Maurizio.
Are you ready to support me in this voyage to discover the new super sport car?
Yes, absolutely. As you know, I had the chance to develop the new Huracan to test in all the conditions, and as usually happens when I have the opportunity to work and drive on this kind of project, it becomes a very great experience. So if you are agree, I would like to explain in few words how the drivers can feel in the car.
Sure, Giorgio. Go, and we will virtually follow you on this kind of experience.
Perfect.
Prego.
Welcome on board in the new Lamborghini Huracan. Let me explain the new multifunction steering wheel, where we have introduced the side light indicator, the wipers, the dynamic mode selector with the Strada Sport and Corsa mode, with the new bigger shifting pedals. The first feeling is to have everything under control. About the new TFT instrument panel, you have different layout. You can choose the bigger counter that is more racetrack oriented, or with a simple click, choose the odometer configuration. As a third option, you can choose the configuration with the odometer and the navigation system screen. Last but not least, there is the option with the full screen navigation system. About the central console, we have the new engine start button. But honestly speaking, what I like more is to push it. Now let's go to see what we have done during the development of the new Lamborghini Huracan.
Okay, Now we go more in detail in what Giorgio explained before. We start from what we call a human interface. When you are seated in a car, in a super sport car, the steering wheel is the first approach that you have with the car, and is where you expect to have, let me say, the first confidence with the car. For this reason, we redefine completely the philosophy of our steering wheel, integrating inside the main function that a driver must perform during the use of the car. We have in this left side upper parts, let me call, the high beam and the blinkers. In the right side end parts, we have the washer and the wiper. We have on the, let me say, lower central parts some buttons that are for scrolling the menu. We'll see later the function. And in the central, there is what for us is really something completely new, is what we call anima. I will come later to the description of what means anima and what are the main functions that we can have on this button. But it's clear that the driver, when sitting in a car, have immediately in front of him, and he can touch this kind of tool that is not only a steering. What is important is that the layout of this steering is not made by chance. We made a really big investigation in a neurological sense in order to have, with the supports of different universities, an approach about what happened in terms of instinctive when you are in a condition that you must operate it really fast and what the brain is able to perform in a best way. And based on different analysis, different study made on a population of driver, professional, normal driver, and so what was achieved is that normally our attention is keep from a positioning that is in the top of the steering wheel, in the half top of the steering wheel. And where normally the reaction of the brain is faster is in the left side, because normally you use the right parts of the brain and the operation coming from the left. For this reason, we decided to put in the upper parts what can be the safety function, like the high beam, because when you see another car, you need to have this really faster, and the wiper, because in case that you have a dirty on the screen, you must be really fast to operate. For the side indicator, in the left side, you see, is where the majority of the people put pressure, and in this position, we put the blinker of the parts. In the other side, there is the normal operation of the blinker. This was the briefing that we assigned to our colleague of the Centro Stile in order to design what our brain thinking is the best for using of the car. And this was the philosophy that generate this first part of the human interface of the new uracan. When we go to the instrument cluster, we talk about something that is really unique at this moment in the car business. We have 12.3-inch TFT virtual instruments that give immediately a completely picture of the car. And like Giorgio said before, we can choose from different appearance. We have the classic one where you can have odometer on the car and the function of temperature, fuel, and some other indication. You can switch from RPM counter to the odometer, but every driver can decide, for example, if you use a normal DVD or tuning system or Navi, that is normally what is more often used, you can have the both representation in front of your eyes, means you don't need to remove the visibility from the center, looking in the side, but you have everything in front of your eyes. And it's clear that, for example, if you arrive too close to, I don't know, a downtown where speed is not so important, driving experience is in a normal road, in a normal town, you can have a maximized infotainment system, including Navi, where you have everything in front of your eyes, and you have on side the main car indication like speed, like fuel, like temperature, and so. In this way, our driver can really choose based on the using of the car what is better for the every kind of condition, and sure to guarantee to have the more easy use of our Huracan. Now we came to the famous red button, the ANIMA. ANIMA is an acronym that means Adaptive Network Intelligence Management, but also ANIMA in Italian is a soul of the man, of the body. And for us, ANIMA is a soul of the car, is really the function that is able to manage the intelligence of the car. You will see during the presentation how many of the functions that we have installed are steered and managed from this ANIMA. Here we put a short summary. We go from the engine response and sound, means acceleration, the RPM, the responsiveness of the engine, and also the sound. The gearbox behavioral is one of the field where you perceive immediately the difference between one selection and the other, but also the dynamic steering, the four-wheel drive system, and the magnetoreological dampers present in the car. Okay, now what you have here is a sound of our V10 engine that is one of the more particular sound that you can have in our car. And it's clear that this represents one of the peculiarities of the Lamborghini. In order to achieve this music, we decided to use a completely redefined 5.2-liter naturally aspirated engine, means the pure DNA of the super sport car, where we, for the first time, we introduce a completely new system of injection, means we merge MPI system with iniezione diretta stratificata. This is really something unique that allowed our car to have the possibility to fulfill Euro 6 because MPI is mainly oriented and dedicated to the particulate emission, and the mix of the two injections allowed us to reach an outstanding performance in terms of torque of the engine. Like a result, we have a CO2 emission that are 11% less compared to the old Gallardo. We improve the power to 610 horsepower, like was mentioned before. And we have introduced stop and start function that is allowed, is a big contributor to the CO2 and fuel consumption reduction. If we go to see the shape of the curve of the torque and consequently also the power, you can see that the violet curve of the Huracan is much, much better compared to the old Gallardo, and also at low speed you can see immediately the improving coming from this. And like I mentioned before, we are able, due to the new intake manifold and exhaust manifold, to increase the fluidodynamic efficiency of the engine and really to fulfill the drop that was in the old Gallardo, and to have something that is outstanding in terms of elasticity of the car and the reaction in acceleration. What is really important is that mainly due to the thermodynamic efficiency, means the combustion process and the new ECU MED 17 that we have introduced in the Huracan, you can see here the reaction time of the Gallardo that is really impressive. The Huracan is impressive compared to Gallardo. In actuation, full throttle, you see base time, RPM increasing, how fast react the Huracan in every condition. This, for a super sport car, is really important, give an emotion in the tip-in of the engine that is something really unbelievable. Now we came to, let me say, another revolution of Huracan. The request was to have a car that can be used in day by day for downtown, for to go to the work and so, but can be also chameleontic and can be arrived to be used also on the racetrack and to be the best in class in terms of performance. The solution that we decide for this car, for this kind of range of performance that was a request, was to use Lamborghini doppia frizione. Lamborghini doppia frizione is a 7-speed gearbox where are installed 2 coaxial clutch of 200 millimeter. We use the same diameter for both clutch because in this way we can guarantee that the torque distribution is exactly the same in the gear pair and not pair gears. And what is really important is that in this gearbox we install a different function that are really important. Based on what I mentioned before, you see that anima operated in the gearbox. There is also another function that I will describe later that is what we call LPI, Lamborghini Piattaforma Inerziale, that have influence also on this kind of behavior. But what is important is that in this gearbox we install all what is requested. Gearbox is able to provide a smooth shifting without any kind of torque interruption. Means car is really easy to use, can start without any kind of jump in every condition. But we have also installed different functions. One, for example, is a launch control, where car can achieve, mainly due to the gearbox, a outstanding acceleration without any kind of torque interruption, but something like a torque reaction in the shifting. And we have in a Corsa mode a pre-selection downshifting, where if you use the car in the racetrack and you want really to enjoy, if you pull for more of 500 milliseconds the downshifting lever, the car automatically is able to downshift to the lower gear that is possible to use for this kind of using, for this kind of cornering that you approach. What is also peculiar for Lamborghini is the four-wheel drive system. We came from the old Gallardo, from a visco coupling solution, and what we decide for the Huracan is to put what is the state of the art, means a full electronical control four-wheel drive system, where for the first time we are able to do something that is really special. We have a nominal torque distribution of 30% in the front and 70% on the rear. That is, from dynamic point of view, what is the best starting point. But we are able to transfer to the front till 50% of the torque, and what is really astonishing is that we are able to move in the rear of the car also till 100%. Means in some dynamic condition we can have something really, let me say, like a two-wheel drive in some extreme condition. Also, this system, like you can see, is fully integrated, means it's part of the strategy and the logic that we have installed in the anima and in the piattaforma inerziale. Here you can see in a more, let me say, easy way what happened to the car. Means there is a dynamic representation of the distribution of the force when you accelerate and you run on this kind of system. Now we go to the steering. Steering system is another of the most important issue in a car. Is what you use to control the car. Is what gives to you the feeling that the car is able to follow what you want to do. And only if the steering wheel is able to react like the expectation, you can say you can be safe in the car and you can really push everything at the limits. In our system, we have tried to put all what is the best of the technology available at the moment. Means in this kind of system you can have a completely different ratio between steering and wheel due to LDS, Lamborghini Dynamic Steering. And here there is an example of what happened when you operated. You can see in strada with the same angle of the steering wheel what are the travel of the tire in strada and in corsa, that are the two programs that we have in our anima. And when you selected the corsa mode, what happened is something completely different. What means this? Is that our customer can choose based on what they want to use the car. For example, if they need to park the car, they have a more easy maneuver due to the fact that they have a low speed, high ratio, and they can make a maneuver with a big angle on the wheel, and they can make everything easy. But with the increasing of the speed or with the changing of the mood, the car is able to react in a completely different way and to give more direct behavioral, to be more precise, and to give a really more dynamics effect. In a super sport car, the Lamborghini dynamic steering is the first application of this kind of concept. Means we put a flag to say that super sport car is also based on this kind of new technology. Now, there was a film that explains better what happened with the Lamborghini steering. Okay, the other important parts of the chassis is related to the suspension. Suspension that we have on the Huracan is a double wishbone suspension and can be coupled with a magnet or rheological dampers. This kind of solution allowed us to have really the best dynamic behavioral of the car, but also in this case, our customer can customize the reaction of the car. Means can be a really comfortable reaction if you are in a downtown, if you are on the pavé, or in some condition where the street is really raw. You can have in Strada a really smooth dynamic behavioral. But if you move to sport and Corsa, the car change completely the dynamic behavioral of the suspension, and in this case can react really like a super sport car without to have any kind of hesitation in the sharp cornering of the track or in the dynamic use of the car on the hill or on the mountains. And also these two systems are linked again with the Anima and the Lamborghini Piattaforma Inerziale. Now we came to this famous Lamborghini Piattaforma Inerziale. What I mentioned before is really something unique, because normally this is a system that is used in aeronautic or in the rockets to be able to calculate in a real time the positioning of the airplane or of the rockets. And normally in the car business, everything, this kind of analysis is made due to calculation. Calculation is time. And for us, time is against super sport car. What was developed was a system, an ECU that we have in the center of gravity of the car, where are installed 3 accelerometer and 3 gyroscope that allowed to have in a fast way as possible, because we give immediately the information to the flex rail line, and means is available to the brain of the car, all the information that are related to what happened in the main function of the car. And at the end are the wheel. But in this way, we are able to give the input to the system like steering, like suspension, like electronic stability control, like gearbox, like engine, to react exactly in order to have the best result. This is something really unique. You will, I hope, experience soon in our car, where you see that the car is really able to react faster of your imagination in every kind of dynamic condition. Here we arrive really of a joint between car and the street. The two main, or the main actor of this are brake. For the brake, we have a completely new brake system 380 millimeter carboceramic disc in the front and 356 disc in the rear, 6 caliper and 4 calipers front and rear. And due to this, we are able to achieve an astonishing performance of from 100 km per hour to 0 in only 31.9 meters. The other important, let me say, parts of the puzzle are the tire. Tire is, let me say, is a last connection points with the street. For uracan, we developed a completely new P0 with Pirelli. Is, let me say, is a long study because it's a tire that must guarantee the right rolling comfort, but also to be able to react in a more extreme way when we are in the proving ground, when we are on the tracks, and to guarantee to have the right wearing, the right rolling resistance that is so important for the CO2, and to be able, let me say, to give to all our customers the right confidence and the right feeling with the street when you push full throttle acceleration or brake in our car. Now we can see another small video about tires and brakes. This is now the, let me say, is one of the last parts of the car because chassis is a skeleton of the car, is what at the end create the right connection between all the components that we've seen before, including also safety requirement that was not mentioned because for us it's clear are mandatory for a car that must be sold worldwide. Hybrid chassis was really a, let me say, a really marvelous experience of engineering because you can imagine the difficulty to start to think integration of different material. One isotropic and the other not isotropic, to define what are the right percentage, the right position of every material. This was possible due to the huge experience of Audi in aluminum. Our experience derived from the Ventador in carbon fiber, and the game, the exercise was exactly to define where every material must be only due to the emission of every centimeter of the monocoque. If it's related to stiffness, if it's related to weight, is related to safety, we define at the end what is the best for the Huracan. And the best for the Huracan was, let me say, surprise also Lamborghini, because we achieve an increase of the stiffness that is so important for the super sport car of 50%, and this 50% was achieved without to increase 1 gram the weight of the chassis, but from the other side, achieving a decrease of 10% of the weight of the chassis. And we are really proud to say that this is the first application of this material. And application means also solve together different problems that are related to the junction. If in the junction to use glue, to use rivets, to put in a Owen, to cure together. This was part of the technology that we developed together, and today is a part of the know-how that we have between us and Audi. We arrive more or less at the moments when there is a merge between us, engineering, and designer. We are all under one roof, but you can imagine there is normally a line of division, and aerodynamic is what I call every time is the judge of this division, because at the end the team of Filippo must sure design the best car of the world, but the design have a strong influence in all what is aero cooling of the car, means dynamics aerodynamics and also cool efficiency. What at the end the team was able to achieve, also in this case, is something that is really astonishing compared to the previous Gallardo. We were able to reduce 3% the drag force, means the 6 of the car, but achieving an increase of the 50% of the downforce, and compared to the old Gallardo, to have a really big improvement in the aerodynamic balance. Means we were really able to put more downforce in the front, and what is really important, and we are proud of this, one of the briefings that we received was also not to use any kind of movable flap, spoiler, and so in order to have a really lean and perfect design. And this was achieved without any kind of movable parts like happened before in other cars. At the end, the increased car efficiency, that is a ratio between drag and downforce, is a global increasing of 8%. To achieve this, we made several studies together with the design, together with our aerodynamic people, in order to guarantee cooling, drag force, perfect air distribution that is also mandatory for the comfort in the car. If you don't have a right, let me say, flow, you can have immediately wind noise, you can have turbulence, and everything was made in order to suck air from the engine bay, to put in a right position, to have a right working of every surface in order to compensate the missing of the flap. And also, in the under parts of the car was made a really big investigation in order to have a really clean underfloor and efficiency rear diffuser that allowed to achieve the result that I mentioned before. At the end, let me say, all what we describe must be measurable, must be a number. Otherwise, is only we talk about nothing. What we were able to achieve is a unique driving performance that can be summarized in this some number: 0-100 in 3.2 seconds, 0-100 km/h in 9.9 seconds, and top speed superior to 325 km/h. A power-to-weight ratio that is really excellent, that is 2.33 kilograms on horsepower, that for handling is really a must. Braking space is 31.9 meter, 100 to 0. That is 1.1 meter better of the previous Gallardo that was already state-of-the-art in the braking. And here what you see on the screen is the proving ground of Nardò. I don't know who have the chance to experience, but for us is more or less our let me say, house for developing the car and to measure the result that we achieve. Means we have all our parameters, all our reference are in this track that is more or less 5.6 kilometers, if I remember right. Is really marvelous, inspired to Nürburgring with up and down. And with the Huracan, we were able to achieve a lap time that is 2 seconds better of a Gallardo. That Gallardo was already benchmarked in Nardò proving ground. This is the final result of what we achieve in terms of technical development.